For me, yummy. Louie T, welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up and take command. I, of course, am your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me today on the program. A number of things to knock down. Most notably, preseason game number 1, slated for Saturday afternoon, 1 p.m. kickoff time for the Commanders as they host the Carolina Panthers, the very first game in Commanders history. Now, it's a preseason game, but still a game nonetheless. Excited always to see the fellas get back on the field for the first time in a season. And this is a little bit different because, again, this is a new iteration. Now, as the Washington Commanders, new uniforms, the field will look different. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not going to lie. I want to see what everything looks like. Again, once they kick off the football, all that goes out the window, and then it just becomes football again. But, these are all the aesthetics that exist, and I want to see what it looks like. So from that standpoint, looking forward to seeing, how everything looks. Then you got to transition to the play on the field, and I'm going to give you 7 things to look for. I felt listy today, so I started listing things. And when I'm feeling listy, I start listing things, and my lists are often comprised of 7 items. So I'm going to give you the 7 things that you should be looking for in tomorrow's preseason game versus the Carolina Panthers. And let me just make a correction to a clerical error yesterday. I think multiple times when I was talking about Samis Reyes in particular, I kept saying that it was tonight. And you guys know I knew the game was on Saturday. So I apologize for that, for any confusion there from anyone. I think I might have been thinking about those preseason games that were last night, and you kept saying tonight, but you guys knew what I meant on Saturday. So with that said, first order of business, I know you guys saw the Jason Wright tweet. And him getting in the mix of Scott, I always forget his name, from Channel 7, I think he's from. Let me get my phone, and I'm going to get his name right because Jason got in his mix, and it was probably well-deserved. Scott Abraham, Channel 7. I don't know if you guys have seen the interview that he did with Carson. It was 11 minutes long. And I don't know if he thought he was doing something good by posting about a 1:10 snippet of him absolutely berating Carson Wentz. And again, it wasn't necessarily what he was asking him, it was how he asked him. I mean, there's a tactful way to do anything that you want to do. I always talk to people. Me and my wife, we have these conversations. That's why I love my wife so much, because she's helped me grow in so many different areas. And one of those areas that I've grown a lot in over the years is how I talk to people. Because when you talk to someone, you may be giving them criticism. You may be telling them something that they don't want to hear. But if you do it in a tactful way, they're going to be able to digest it, and you will be able to have a meaningful conversation stemming from what was said. However, if you say it in an aggressive or in a mean-spirited way, people become defensive, and all of a sudden, the message that you may have been trying to get across gets lost in the sauce, and all of a sudden, it turns into a shouting match, and now nothing is being resolved, okay? So Carson Wentz kept his cool, as he often does, but he was blindsided by the interview with Scott. I forgot his name. It's insignificant, okay, from Channel 7. All right. He essentially told Carson, the Eagles didn't want you, the Colts didn't want you, and now you're here with Washington. Is this your last chance, to be a starting quarterback? And Carson's answered some, semblance of that question already when he first got here. But for you to tell me the Eagles didn't want you, the Colts didn't, there's a much better way to go about that. Okay. he talked about the inaccuracies during camp, and he talked about him being wildly inaccurate. And, what does he have to say about that? And the people that are saying that, like, dude, what are you talking about? And Carson said, first thing, it's camp, dude. Like, get the hell out of my face with that shit. Don't be coming in here with that weak stuff. Like, get that shit out of here, man. It's camp. And that's the same thing I told you guys. Like, Derek B, somebody else, I want to say it was Metaphor, somebody else, it might have been King of the North. Somebody else sent me something, but Derek B in particular, I know, sent me a message, a DM, talking about the struggles of one Matt Ryan in Indianapolis in their offense as the defense is dominating Matt Ryan and that Colts offense. And he said, look, they're chalking it up to an elite defense that they're playing against. Mind you, this is without the man known as the Maniac, Darius Leonard, who is out after having surgery. So he's not even in the lineup right now, and they're being dominated by the Colts defense. It's camp. He just got there. It's a new offense. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think he's just going to show up and start throwing darts to guys he's never thrown to in an offense he's never been in? Like, wake the hell up, people. So that was my whole argument when people really wanted to make this a thing when it's really not a thing. And I said, you can go around the league, find me a guy that has changed teams in a new offense, okay? This isn't traced back to an offense he played in 3 years ago or under a coordinator in the past or anything similar to it. This is a brand new offense, and it's new receivers, and everything's different, new terminology in a new setting. Find me a guy who's not going to struggle in camp initially. It's far-fetched to me, okay? And so for Scott, whatever his name is, I got to stop forgetting this guy's name. He's a peon, and that's probably why my brain won't process his name. Scott Abraham. He's always rubbed me the wrong way. When I hear him speak, a lot of times the questions that he asks, I go, dude, what are you talking about? Why are you asking that question? But he's a TV personality. That's what you get out of TV guys, okay? He thought that he was doing something good by posting that snippet. It made him look like an asshole. If anything, I would have been trying to, and he thought that was going to get his interview with Carson more eyeballs. So he tweeted out that little snippet, which made him sound like a jerk, and then tweeted behind that, here's the full 11-minute interview. No, doofus, okay? After seeing that, I don't want to watch the entire 11 minutes. That minute and 10 seconds was enough for me to say, you know what? I'm good. I'm going to pass. So Jason Wright, after, seeing that snippet, and I don't know if he watched the entire 11-minute interview. Generally, I don't want my team president stepping in situations like this. Carson Wentz is a big boy. He can handle himself, doesn't need the team president stepping in on his behalf to let this guy know that you just effed up, and good luck trying to get other players to sit down and have one-on-ones with you after the bullshit you just pulled. I don't need my team president doing that normally. But Jason Wright felt it was his duty to step in, and he's done this before. I don't know if remember that post I was talking about that really irked me? Again, I don't get upset very often about things, right? Because again, I have thick skin, and I know this team has a target on its back, on its chest, on its head, red dot right in the middle, back of the head. I mean, everywhere that you can have a target, we have one, and we deserve it. Okay, we've been a terrible organization. We've been run into the ground by Daniel Snyder. We're a easy target for people to swing or shoot or try and hit. And usually they don't miss because of the low-hanging fruit that exists because of all of this shit Daniel Snyder has put this organization through. It continues to put this organization through. So it's easy for people to use us as a target practice. So when Barstool Sports decided to tweet out a clip from rookie OTAs of guys line stepping, right? Line hopping, and they want to throw that out there as this is why the Commanders can't win on the heels of Carson Wentz is struggling in camp with his accuracy, which I thought was negligent on the part of Bleacher Report. That's the shit that pisses me off. Like, you don't know any of the story. Stay in your lane, okay? This ain't your business. Stay out of our shit, and we'll stay out of yours, right? So Jason felt the need to address that as well. Like, all right, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. So you know what? You stay over there. First of all, that was from 3-4 months ago. So get your shit straight. All right. But anyway, he addressed that, and then he addressed this. And I can tell you this, Scott Abraham just screwed himself. I don't know of many players that are going to want to sit down with him one-on-one. He came at Curtis Samuel somewhat sideways, and Curtis, took that opportunity to turn to the camera and essentially tell everyone, hey, I'm going to be ready for week 1. But this one, he went too far. He crossed the line, and he seems like a habitual line stepper. Well, he stepped over the line this time, and it may be the final time. And, I don't know. Maybe these players are like, oh, whatever. But I can tell you what, Jason Wright isn't going to let this one die, and I'm pretty sure he's going to tell the PR guys, hey, next time Scott Abraham puts in a request for a player one-on-one, make sure you tell his ass, get the stepping, all right? Hit the bricks, kick rocks, get the hell out of here. So I don't have a problem with it. I don't necessarily love Jason Wright having to step in here, all right? But he could have done this back channels wise, but he decided, no, you want to take this shit to socials? I can take it to socials. Don't worry about it. You want to be petty? I can be petty just as well. I have no problems with that. But at the end of the day, it's not a distraction for me. It's not a distraction for the players on the field. Okay, that's a media thing. They'll be chomping at the bit to talk about it behind the scenes and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, there is a thing called professionalism. And that wasn't professional. You don't sit down with a guy and essentially tell him you weren't wanted here, you weren't wanted there. Is this your last chance? Like, what? I mean, what are you doing here, guy? But in any event, enough of that talk. Carson Wentz has more than enough ammunition to go out and prove the naysayers wrong. I mean, he's been attacked every way you can be attacked this offseason, okay? Any way you can think of someone attacked. The man was rated 26th overall in starting quarterbacks on Madden. Like, the slaps in the face that have been coming at him from all different angles, ridiculous. I mean, you would think that there is some kind of bias out there about Carson Wentz, as if he slept with someone's aunt, grandma, mama, something. Like, did Carson Wentz do something to you, and what did he do? Because there's been so much animosity, it seems like, towards him. So at this point, and he claims he doesn't hear a lot of it. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he does a great job of insulating himself. Some of these guys really don't pay attention to the noise outside, but it's hard to ignore, because even the stuff that he's trying to ignore, people keep bringing to his doorstep. I tell you guys all the time, I'm not really on socials, but guess what? It's hard for me to ignore things when people keep sending me items to make sure, hey, Louie T, did you see this? Louie T, did you see this? Louie T, did you see this? Eventually, it's going to come back around. I'm going to find out about it, or I'm going to see it. Someone's going to send it to me. It's impossible for Wentz to live in a bubble in this day and age, with him being the face of a franchise, essentially, and having to speak with the media. It's impossible for him to not know what's being said about him. So he's got more than enough ammunition to come out here this year and prove people wrong. And this is just another example of why he needs to go out and play well, so he can stick it to people like Scott Abraham of Channel 7. But anyway, I digress. Let's get to what I deem to be the most important thing that we're supposed to be talking about tonight, which is the preseason game. So Carolina Panthers up first on the docket. I've talked about the way that I think the Panthers are going to handle this game. Head coach Matt Rule of the Carolina Panthers came out and said, you're going to see both quarterbacks in this game, which we knew. If you're having a quarterback battle, how are you not going to play both quarterbacks? In doing so, you're going to have to put the offensive line out there for both quarterbacks. You're going to have to put the skill guys out there for both quarterbacks. So they're going to get equal opportunity to perform, show, and prove. That said, it was a lower snap count than I was expecting to hear. He said 6 to 8 snaps for Sam Darnold, 6 to 8 snaps for Baker Mayfield. He refused to say who would start the game. It's going to be Baker Mayfield. That's the guy that, to me, it's his job to win in Carolina. They didn't trade for him and have him sitting there when they already traded for Sam Darnold, gave him an opportunity. This is the last year of his deal. This is the last year of Baker Mayfield's deal. They're not going to just sit there and allow Baker Mayfield to essentially not play as many games as possible to prove to them that he is the guy. So they're going to give him every opportunity to prove that this is his job, his team, and to go out and lead the Panthers week 1 against his former team, the Cleveland Browns. That said, I was shocked to hear only 6 to 8 snaps. That's a low number. To me, that's 1 possession for each quarterback. I was expecting more along the lines of 2 possessions for each of these guys. Now, that could easily be a 3 and out. Then they get their ass back out there and another 3 and out, or 3 and out, and then they go and get a couple of first downs, and then they punt, and that all of a sudden they've been out there for 12 snaps. That could happen too. But he said 6 to 8 snaps. So you're looking at roughly a possession or 2 for each of these quarterbacks. Either way, that's along the lines of what I expected. 2 was along the lines of what I expected for each quarterback, not 1. It could just be 1. If they go out there first possession, get 2 or 3 first downs, and then settle for a field goal, that might be Baker Mayfield's night. Then Sam Darnold comes in, and let's say he picks up a couple of first downs, and then they settle for another field goal. Boom, that's his night, and it's over. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, they're going to go by how the game is played. If they go 3 and out, you're probably going to see that same quarterback come back on the field and get another possession. Either way, the defense is going to have an opportunity to get some looks against the Panthers' first team for at least a quarter. As far as I'm concerned, at least a quarter of the Panthers starters offensively. Meanwhile, defensively, it may not be as long of a night because they feel, I think, a lot better about their defense than they do their offense, or at least their quarterback situation. So, for us, 15 to 20 snaps is what Ron said. I expect the first quarter to be played like a standard NFL regular season game. I expect this first quarter to be like, I watched both of the preseason games last night, Giants, Patriots, and Titans, Ravens. They looked like preseason games. Nobody played any of their starters, sans for the Giants. The Patriots didn't play their starters. The Titans nor the Ravens played any of their starters. So it looked like a preseason game. That is not what our game is going to look like. Our game is going to feature starters on both sides of the football by both teams for at least the first quarter or half of the first quarter. So I am looking forward to this game. And here are the 7 things in particular that I'm looking forward to from this game. If you're a Washington Commanders fan, that I think you should be looking for. Now, our list may be different, but this is what I'm looking for in particular. So the number 7, I told you when I start feeling listy, I start listing things, and my lists are usually comprised of 7 items. So number 7 for me is the punt return game. All right. So kickoff returns, those rarely happen in the NFL anymore. Most guys are letting the ball go over their head. Even if this shit bounces at the 2, they're going to try and let it bounce into the end zone so they don't have to return it. Look, I think emphasis is being put on that by special teams coaches. Like, look, if you don't think you can get it back to the 25, hey, just let the thing bounce in the end zone. We'll take it at the 25. Now that it's not the 20 anymore, because it's easy to get it back to the 20. It's hard to get it back to the 25. And so if I'm guaranteed to get it at the 25, hey, let's not even chance it. Because if you get it back to the 22, I'm going to be pissed. You just cost me 3 yards of field position. If you get it back to the 17, I'm really going to be pissed. Okay. And then, a lot of these special teams plays, tack on a holding penalty. If you decide to return it, it's holding. It's too many guys, wedging together. And so that's an illegal formation. And you just don't need to have that. Now you're starting at the 15. Now you're starting at your own 10. No need for that. So I don't worry about kickoff so much as punt return. And we know that this punt return situation has been a topic of discussion for this team really for the last 3 years, going all the way back to the 2020 season when we made the playoffs. It was an ugly situation in 2020 with Steven Sims and company. We really got nothing. It was really a detriment to us in 2020. Sims fumbling against Arizona, Sims fumbling against Carolina, having issues all year long with protecting the football on punt returns. So it was an issue in 2020. Last year, we didn't know what we were going to get. We just had a big question mark there, but it was filled beautifully by DeAndre Carter, who is no longer here, but he returned a kickoff for a touchdown. When's the last time we saw that in Washington against the Atlanta Falcons? That was a huge play in that game to start the third quarter. And he was also really solid on punt returns as well. And so now we're looking to fill that void. And I want to see who gets the first crack at it. I think it's going to be Alex Erickson. I think he's going to make the football team. Honestly speaking, I think it's his job to win. I think he's going to cinch it and end up being the 7th receiver and final receiver on this roster. But again, it's still open business, still an open competition. Dax Milne can still go out there, show and prove, and maybe give a guy like Markin Michel an opportunity to make the football team. But honestly, I think it's Alex Erickson's job. I think he will nail it down this preseason. and be our 7th receiver and kind of give us a little bit of what we got last year from DeAndre Carter. So that's the first thing that I'll be looking for in this game is who's returning kickoffs and punts. Remember, Ron said whomever is going to fill that duty and responsibility this year has to be able to do both. We looked at the unofficial depth chart. Alex Erickson was penciled in as both the starting kick and punt returner. I expect that to be the case when we get to week 1, barring any kind of injury. So moving to number 2 or number 6 on my list of the things, and this is in the order of importance to me. Number 6 on the list, Curtis Samuel and the young DBs. So Curtis Samuel is playing in his first preseason game as a member of this organization. Remember, he didn't play in the preseason at all last year. Was yo-yoing in and out of the lineup. Was a very, very disappointing first season in Washington for Curtis Samuel. And so this is a guy that I look at and say, all right, I'm flushing last year. A lot of people want to keep harking back to that, and rightfully so. Dude's been, injured all last year, came into this season banged up. I get it. I understand why people have their reservations about Curtis Samuel and whether he can stay healthy or not. But for me, I told you that wasn't his MO in Carolina. So I'm not going to burden that man with saying that he's injury prone, because he's actually been far from it in his career. Now, what he did in Carolina versus what he did here, two totally different places and ways to handle situations. We've been really hamstrung. That's probably not the right term to use, but we've been hamstrung by injuries for whatever reason, whether you can blame the training staff or the medical staff or whatever the case may be. People don't seem to stay healthy here. Let's knock on a little bit of wood. But I'm not going to put that on Curtis Samuel. I think he's going to be just fine this year. They're using the plan, and the plan has allowed him to be ready to suit up in the first preseason game. I want to see what he looks like. Also, we talked a lot about these young DBs, man. Sip, you know him as Christian Holmes, but Sip is a guy that, as a 7th-round pick, has been turning some heads in camp. We'll see what he's doing. All right. Obviously, we want to see what Percy Butler looks like, and I think he'll get some run very early in this game when the starters are out there. I think you're going to see 35 running around, maybe make a play or two. Also, Defoe, Derek Forrest, a second-year safety that they have high hopes for. Think he's going to be able to maybe do a little something this year. So, obviously, I want to see if he gets in early, who's the first safety in there, right? You know they're going to start Cam Curl. You know they're going to start Bobby McCain. Who's that other guy? When they go to that Buffalo nickel, is it going to be just Juice? Are they going to put a third safety out there? And if so, who's that third safety? Is it Percy Butler first? Is it Derek Forrest first? These are the things that I'll be looking for. Looking to see these guys make some splash plays, but also looking to see them make the routine plays as well. Derek Forrest has been known to overrun plays, to miss tackles. He did it last year in the preseason. I was not impressed with him last year. He did some things that I said, yep, saw that on tape. So I'm looking to see some of those improvements that everyone's been talking about this offseason with Derek Forrest. And Percy Butler, how does he burst onto the scene? And also, Juice. This is a guy that they've been talking about playing the slot all offseason long. He's done a really good job in camp of playing the slot. Now we actually get to lay eyes on it and watch it in a real game. I want to see how he handles playing inside as a nickel corner, but also coming down and helping as a run defender in the box. So I'm interested to see all of these young DBs getting an opportunity, and I want to see what they do with those opportunities. You go to number 5, and to me, it's the tight end position. So obviously, this would have been a lot higher on the list had John Bates and Cole Turner been available for the game on Saturday. But obviously, that's not going to be the case. They're going to both be out of that game. So Sammy Reyes, more likely than not, is going to get the nod as TE1. Then you're probably going to follow him up with Curtis Hodges, and then you just go to the rest of those tight ends. And so I still want to see these guys. I still want to see what Sammy Reyes looks like and what improvements he's made to his game since the last time we've seen him. I want to see what they see in Curtis Hodges. This is a big kid, 6'8", 245 pounds, very fluid athlete, can catch the football. I want to see what he looks like in the run game as a blocker as well. That's somewhere where I feel like he's probably lacking at this point, but I want to see what he looks like, what he brings to the table. They've been ranting and raving about Amani Rodgers. Still got a long way to go. still making that transition from quarterback to tight end, still undersized. He's got a ways to go, but I want to see what everyone else has been talking about with him in camp. So the tight end position is definitely one that I'll be honing in on. And I expect us to maybe struggle a bit in the run game, especially if they try to get into these, short yardage situations. In camp, when there was no John Bates, when there was no Cole Turner and no Sammis Reyes, we struggled to run it when we got into the red zone or when we got into, third and short situations and you bring your big personnel on the field. We struggled to run the football. I'll be interested to see if we get into a 3rd and 1 early in this ball game and they decide to go big. Are they going to be able to man up and run the football with the Panthers knowing we're going to come at them with a run play? Are they going to be able to run the football successfully with the tight ends that we're putting out there with limited experience and really not all that good in the blocking game to this point? So it'll be interesting to look at these tight ends, see what we have. This is a great opportunity, as I mentioned yesterday, for Sammis Reyes to maybe show that not only do I belong on this roster, but I belong having more opportunities, more reps. This is a great opportunity for him to show that he belongs, not just on the roster, but also getting more opportunities. This is what you do. You take advantage of opportunities when they're presented to you. This is as good an opportunity as Sammis Reyes is going to get. I'm anxious to see what he does with it. Number 4 on the list for me, the offensive line. So I think we've minimized the amount of movement we've seen with this offensive line and some of the injuries. We've downplayed it. Why? Because we believe in John Masco, the offensive line coach. We think he's one of, if not the best positional coach that we currently have on this staff. And so because of that trust in John Masco, I think we've been willing to overlook the fact that Chase Roullier is coming off of major ankle surgery. We've overlooked the fact that Trey Turner hasn't participated in practice and is dealing with a quad injury since the 2nd day of training camp. We've removed the issues that we've had and some of the qualms that we had about bringing these ex-Carolina Panther guards in here and expecting them to just play like Eric Flowers did last year and Brandon Sheriff did. But at left guard, Andrew Norwell has big shoes to fill, figuratively and literally. I mean, even though he wasn't dominant, Eric Flowers kept it nice and quiet over there at left guard, So he has to come in and kind of pick up where Eric Flowers left off. So, Wes Schweitzer is going to probably start tomorrow's game at center, meaning there's no Trey Turner at right guard and there's going to be no Wes Schweitzer at guard unless they decide to say, you know what, let's not kill 2 positions, even though I don't think you're hurting center all that much, but let's not kill 2 positions by taking a guy and moving him from his natural position, which Wes Schweitzer is more of a guard than he is a center. Let's not kill that position, and let's put Wes Schweitzer at right guard, and let's bring up a Keith Ishmael or someone because remember, our backup center, Tyler Larson, is still nursing from surgery, major knee surgery from a season ago himself. He's still on the PUP list. So no one's really talking about the offensive line and all these, pieces that we're shuffling around. Is Wes Schweitzer going to be at guard? I think he may be at guard, and we may just see a guy like Keith Ishmael starting at center instead of moving around a whole bunch of pieces and taking Schweitzer, who is normally your first guard off the bench, and taking him and putting him at center. Center is more important than guard because the center is the nervous system of the offensive line. It's the brain of the operation. So maybe they say we got to put Wes at center so he can handle some of the calls and, all of those things and stabilize the pivot position, and we'll just stick another guy. But remember, Sadiq Charles is out. He would have probably been the next guy off the bench at the guard position. He's out. So again, shit gets interesting when you start shuffling all of these pieces around, and now you don't have a Sadiq Charles playing in this game. Wes Schweitzer has to move. He's supposed to be the first guard in. There's no Trey Turner. I'm intrigued, and there's no Chase Roullier. So I'm intrigued to see what the offensive line looks like. Can they do an adequate job of protecting Carson in this game? We don't want him getting hit in this game. The Panthers are good up front, okay? They've got Brown, who they spent the first-round pick out of Auburn on two years ago. They've got Brian Burns coming off the edge. They've got Yetur Gross-Matos. They've got some stuff over there defensively that can allow them to get after the quarterback. If this offensive line is not ready to protect, Carson Wentz can hit the deck multiple times in his first preseason game. We don't want to see that. I'm anxious to see what this offensive line looks like in preseason game number 1. And not just as pass protectors, they're probably going to be asked to run block as well. Want to see what they look like there also. So next, on the list, number 3, as we get into the top 3 things that I'm looking for in preseason game number 1, linebacker play and defensive pressure. So much has been made of the linebacker position, rightfully so. It was one of those positions that we went into the offseason saying this has to be massively improved. It's not good enough. We don't have the depth, and frankly, we don't think we have the frontline guys to get it done at a high enough level in this league. You want to talk about this defensive line and how good it could be? The guys behind them should be benefiting from a dominant defensive front. Well, we haven't seen that. And maybe it goes hand in hand. Maybe those guys aren't doing a good enough job and the guys behind them haven't been taking advantage, or the guys behind them haven't had opportunities because the guys in front of them haven't been doing a good enough job of opening up holes for them to run through and make plays. Whatever the case may be, the linebackers haven't been good enough. Whether it's been John Bostic or it's been, you can fill in the blanks with the guys that we've had, Mason Foster, yada, yada, yada. We can keep going down the line of guys that have been in the middle of this defense or been on the field in some capacity for us. David Mayo, it hasn't been good enough. And so this year, they said to hell with the 4-3 look. We're primarily a nickel squad, so we're not even going to try to hide this year. We're going to take Cole Holcomb, who we gave the opportunity to play middle linebacker last year. We're going to give him the green dot, put him in the middle this time, and let him be the Mike defender and let him be the head of this defense, okay? Let him have the controls and get everybody lined up and take command of this defense. Jamin Davis, we put a lot on his plate as a rookie last year. We asked him to learn all 3 linebacker positions. We had his head spinning, and he looked lost at times. But we're going to unleash this kid this year. We're going to stick him at outside linebacker where he's probably more naturally suited, and we're just going to tell him, go out and make plays. We're going to take that leash off of him, and we're going to turn that young fella loose. And so hopefully we start to see him running around like a crazed animal out there, ready to make some plays. So I'm looking specifically at those linebackers and saying, what do you have? What do you have to put on display for me? I'm anxious to see what you're going to do with these opportunities here in the preseason. Also, the defensive line. You know, obviously there's no Chase Young, and so that's a disappointment, but we already know that. But Montez Sweat is back. I think he's on a mission. You also look at the defensive tackles. It's a contract year, essentially, for Daron Payne. Jonathan Allen just got his bread, but he views that contract as more fuel and motivation to prove that he deserves it. So obviously he had a banner year last year, was head and shoulders above anybody else defensively for us with his 9.5 sacks. He's looking to build upon that and get to double digits. And so I want to see what these guys come out and do. Their defensive line coach, Sam Mills III, or former defensive line coach, was fired. They promoted Jeff Sonina. And obviously, Warren Sapp sees something in them that he's been out at OTAs and now camp several different times. So I want to see what these guys are prepared to do. Can they take that next step? What does Fedarian Mathis look like? This is a guy they spent a 2nd-round pick to bring in here and try to fortify that defensive line and the depth behind the Bama wall, where they added to the Bama wall. Want to see what that young fella looks like up close and personal. We've talked about the 4th defensive tackle position. That is a big battle left in camp. Well, who's going to step up and seize the opportunity to get the leg up on the rest of the competition? David Bada and maybe F.A. Obada is being played inside him. I'm actually anxious to see where they play this guy because they listed him as a defensive tackle. I thought he was brought here to be a defensive end. What do I know? Obviously, Daniel Wise is another name. I really think it's between those two, Daniel Wise and David Bada, for the last defensive tackle spot. So maybe someone comes off the pace that I'm not even mentioning to snatch that 4th defensive tackle spot. Those are the 2 guys that I'm really eyeballing there. So a lot to look at along that defensive line, and also the guys immediately and directly behind them at the linebacker position. Really looking forward to seeing what they look like in their first action of the season. So we go to number 2. What am I looking for in this first preseason game? I'm looking forward to the debut of wide receiver Jahan Dotson and rookie running back Brian Robinson. Much has been made of Jahan Dotson as a 1st-round pick. Obviously, that is a big effing deal, right? But I've said this, he may be the 2nd most important player, non-quarterback, on the offense this year because of what he could mean for this offense. I said, Curtis Samuel proofs this offense, meaning no matter what happens with Curtis Samuel, even though I think he's going to be healthy this year and really help this offense be dynamic, even if he's not able to stay healthy, if Jahan Dotson is as advertised, we'll be fine because you know what you're getting from 17. And if you can add numero uno to the mix and he's out there slicing and dicing DBs and getting over the top and making plays throughout the season, we're going to be just fine offensively with those two guys going at opposing defenses. So Terry's never had a guy opposite of him. I think Jahan Dotson is the answer to the riddle that we've been looking to solve since Terry's emerged as a wide receiver one. And that's who's going to be Robin to Terry's Batman. Or maybe Jahan is Batman and Terry is going to ultimately be Robin. I could care less which happens. I just want this kid to be dominant. And if he turns out to be better than Terry, so be it. But he's got to go out and show us. This is his first opportunity to do that. Looking forward to seeing what he does. Again, it's going to be limited exposure. I don't expect him to be out there a ton. And it'd be nice if he returned to punt in this game. Don't expect him to do that either. But looking forward to seeing what Jahan Dotson do. He's going to touch it at least once in this game. At least once, if not multiple times. They're going to get him and Curtis Samuel, I believe, involved early in this game and get them out of this game rather quickly. And then Brian Robinson. You know, this was a guy that the team spent the third-round pick on. A lot of people have looked at him and they think it's an indictment on Antonio Gibson and that his future may not be here long-term in Washington. It's year 3. So if they're looking to replace Antonio Gibson, this is the time to draft a guy, right? Learn for a year. Gibson will be going into his contract season next year. And if you don't want to bring him back, you don't have to. You've got a guy that's been here multiple years. He can pick up where Antonio Gibson left off. I don't think that's the case. I think Gibby is a guy that they see immense potential in. He's trimmed down, gotten into the best shape of his career. I think Antonio Gibson's poised for a massive breakout season in 2022. However, he did fumble the football last year, and there has been an issue in short yardage situations. Enter in Brian Robinson. I think this kid is a much more natural runner. I've heard people say that, like Charles Leno Jr. He's he's a very natural runner. Of course, he's been playing a running back position his entire life, whereas Antonio Gibson just started 2 years ago. So that's definitely a duh for me. However, this guy is fluid. He's big. He's physical. He gets yards after contact. And what everyone has said is that the thing they've been most pleasantly surprised about with Brian Robinson in camp is that he's caught the football phenomenally. So they are excited about all of the things that he brings to the table. He's lacking in the pass protector department. So maybe that's something we get to look at in this game and see if he can get out there and maybe improve. I'm looking for incremental improvement. I'm not looking for him to go out there and move the needle from one end to the other. I'm just looking for him to get out there and show effort and give us something to look at, give the coaching staff something to put on film so they can say, hey, this is where you went wrong here. Here's the approach you need to take. Either way, looking forward to seeing Brian Robinson get out there and see what he can bring to the table, because we are expecting not only Jahan Dotson to produce in his rookie season, we're going to be expecting Brian Robinson to produce for this football team as well. So I think those two making their debut also going to be a big deal in this first preseason game. And so finally, we get to number 1. Before we get to number 1, I'm going to go ahead and rewind my 7 things that I'm looking for in this first preseason game. The 7th is punt return. I think it's going to be Alex Erickson. Anxious to see who they'll put out there for the kickoff to start the game. Anxious to see who they'll put out there for the very first punt return of the game. I think it's going to be Alex Erickson. But that's a position that we have to watch. We've been watching it for years. We're watching it again this year. I think Alex Erickson is the guy that ultimately is going to handle the punt return duties for this team. But this first preseason game will tell a lot. It told a lot last year. I think it's going to tell the story again this year. Number 6, Curtis Samuel and the young DBs. Curtis Samuel is playing in this game. There's been much made of his health this offseason, obviously due to what happened with him here last year. He's been put on a plan, and they've been sticking to it, adhering to it very well this offseason, and it's starting to go well. We're hoping that that trend continues with Curtis Samuel. Let's not knock on a little bit of wood. We're going to knock on a lot of wood for him to stay healthy, but we're looking forward to seeing him on the field in a healthy capacity, and we're looking for him to come out of this game in the same manner. Also, the young DBs, we've heard so much about these guys, whether it's the 7th round rookie cornerback Sip or Christian Holmes, whether it's Defoe, 2nd year safety that has been getting a lot of praise during the offseason program, and whether it's Percy Butler, 4th round pick safety that they expect to come in here and really help bolster the defense, especially in that Buffalo nickel package, or you're talking about Benjamin St-Juste, another young corner that now they've transitioned inside to the slot. Want to see what he's all about inside. I've heard a lot of good things about him playing that nickel position. It's easier said than done. I want to see what Benjamin St-Juste has to offer. And you could even throw Corin Elder in that mix as well, another guy vying for a roster spot at the cornerback position. Number 5, tight ends. A ton of injuries, not going to be as exciting as it would have been had we been healthy with John Bates, Cole Turner, and the like. But still, Sammy Reyes is going to get an opportunity to star in this game. Want to see him take advantage of that. I'm also looking to see what Curtis Hodges brings to the table. Amani Rodgers has been getting a lot of reps with the first team, and he's not a guy that's going to make the football team. He's very young. He's very raw. He's making the transition from quarterback to tight end. But I still want to see what everybody else sees in this kid to see if it's even worth it to keep working with him into the future. Number 4, the offensive line. A lot has been made about Trey Turner and Chase Roulier, but not enough has been made about the unit overall. We've trusted John Masco, and everything that he's done to this point says that we should trust him wholeheartedly, which is why I don't think we've made as much about the offensive line's inability to be healthy and play as a unit to this point. There will be no Chase Roulier in this game. There will be no Trey Turner. There will be no Sadiq Charles. So now you're tapping into that depth. There will be no Cornelius Lucas. So when we start putting in these tackles, it could get ugly fast. So this offensive line, it may not look all that great in this game. I'm actually anxious to see what they look like. Number 3, linebacker play and defensive pressure. Linebacker has been a big source of discussion and topic this offseason. It was one of the biggest needs that we felt like we needed to fill this offseason. Well, they ventured towards the in-house option rather than going outside of the building in the draft or in free agency to solve that issue. They decided to promote linebacker Cole Holcomb to middle linebacker and move Jamin Davis outside and reduce the amount of snaps played by the linebackers, shifting away from a 4-3 base to more of a nickel base look. And so these linebackers are going to be under a microscope this year. And it starts in this first preseason game. Looking forward to seeing what they can do. Obviously, big news of the week, Sam Mills III fired as defensive line coach. Jeff Zanina takes over. Warren Sapp has been at camp for much of the week. This defensive line getting a lot of praise, but also they are really a source of disappointment at times because we keep hearing about how dominant this group is. We spent all these first-round picks, and we don't always feel like we're reaping the benefits of the investments that have been made along that defensive line. It's time for that line to step up and start dominating units and teams across the league. Hopefully it starts in this very first preseason game against the Carolina Panthers. Also, you got to also take into consideration that we got a 4th defensive tackle battle going on. F.A. Obado was signed, I thought, as a defensive end. Maybe he's a defensive tackle. There's so many moving parts there. Lot to see with that defensive line, and can they get pressure on the quarterback? Number 2, Jahan Dotson's debut along with Brian Robinson's debut. This is 2 young guys, one drafted in the first round and Dotson at the receiver position, the other drafted in the 3rd round. These are guys that we're looking forward to seeing on the field and maybe getting just a little taste, not much, just a little taste of what these guys may be able to bring to the table for the Commanders in the upcoming season. So now we get to number 1. And obviously this is no surprise. You guys should have been able to guess this. It's the play of Carson Wentz. We want to see what number 11 looks like in a Commander's uniform. he was so excited to get back to wearing the number 11. Remember, he was 11 in Philadelphia. He was 11 at NDSU in college. He had to take the number 2 in Indianapolis because rookie wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr. already had the number 11. And so he had to, or second year, wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr. already had the number 11. So he combined 1 + 1 and took the number 2. But one of the first things he said when he got here was he was excited to get back in the number 11 jersey. So let's hope that that's a good omen. He gets back into 11, starts slinging that rock around, shows everybody why we made the trade. And again, there are going to be some bumps in the road. Okay, it's not going to be all smooth sailing, but I'm looking to see some of the promise of Carson Wentz in this offense. It'd be nice to see them take 1 or 2 deep shots in this game, but again, I'm just looking for completions. I'm looking for him to get into a rhythm. I'm looking for them to move the football, looking for them to pick up some first downs. I don't want 3 and outs. I want, even if it doesn't amount to points, I would like to see them moving the football and Carson Wentz be protected, be comfortable going through his progressions and getting into some kind of rhythm with these receivers. Seems like as we got towards the end of this first wave of camp, he was starting to get into a nice rhythm with these receivers. I'd like to see that carry over into this first preseason game and then go from there. So Wentz's play is number 1 on my list of things that I'll be looking for in this first preseason game. Obviously, there are so many things to choose from, but this team will go as far as 11 takes them. Obviously, they made a huge trade in the offseason to acquire him, and his journey as a Washington Commander starts on Sunday at 1 p.m. versus the Carolina Panthers. Looking forward to seeing Commander Wentz in action. So that is what to look for in preseason game number 1. We will get to your comments and then we will get out of here tonight. So let's see what you guys have to say. And we start off with a comment from my guy, Big Money Sonny. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Big Money Sonny. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Writes, Deshaun Watson and Frank Gore are foul human beings. I don't know what Frank Gore did. I did hear something about a domestic situation, which is never good. But I have no idea what he actually did. So I can't really speak to that. It's unfortunate because Frank Gore had a storied NFL career, with his numbers and the way and his longevity. I felt like he was going to end up being like Curtis Martin and end up in Canton. He may ultimately end up there, but this could tarnish his legacy. And, you're told to not vote about the things off the field, but what those guys did in between the white lines. And while that may be what you should be basing your vote off of, these are human beings we're talking about. And it's impossible not to look at a guy and what he's done as a human being, not just as a player, and factor that into the voting process. So that's unfortunate that Frank Gore has done something to tarnish his legacy. And again, innocent until proven guilty. I don't know his situation. I don't know exactly what you're referring to. I did see something about a domestic spat, but I don't know exactly what happened. But that's unfortunate for him. And we all know what Deshaun Watson has got himself all entangled in. And we're still waiting on the NFL and their decision as they have appealed the 6-game suspension that he got. Let's see. Big Money Sonny once again. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Big Money Sonny. My guy, Sonny writes, so I live in SoCal, and oddly enough, I was surrounded by a ton of Eagles fans talking reckless yesterday. Week 3, can't wait. Top 5, you know the rest, Lou. I know the rest. Top 5, dead or alive. I already know. So that's crazy that you were surrounded by Eagles fans in SoCal. Like, I wouldn't expect you to tell me that about being in Southern California. I would think that would be like I was, at the Hershey factory in Pennsylvania and ran into some Eagles fans. But out in SoCal, well, that's interesting. I didn't know they were out there flocking like that. But week 3, I'm not skipping over weeks 1 and 2. They're just as important as week 3, because if you don't get off to the start that you need to, week 3 is going to be a daunting task. You need to get off to a start that allows you to have the confidence rolling into week 3. So as much as I want to get to that week 3 contest and week 4 against Dallas, I want those games to mean something. I want Washington, because more likely than not, Philadelphia is 2-0 heading into that game. I want Washington to be heading into that game at 2-0 as well. So that's a big matchup at home early in the season between two teams in the NFC East that look like they're going to be legitimate contenders, not only in that division, but potentially in the conference. I want that game to mean something. I can't speak for the Eagles. I could really give two shits about what they do in their first 2 games against Detroit and Minnesota. That's not our prerogative. I'm worried about us. And we need to take care of business against Jacksonville week 1, Detroit in week 2, and then we can talk about Philadelphia week 3. You know, I'm a 1 game, 1 week at a time guy. I can't see past the Jacksonville Jaguars week 1. As much as I want to get to the Eagles week 3, I need Jacksonville to be a dub in week 1. I need Detroit to be a dub in week 2. Then we can talk about Philadelphia in week 3. But my attention is focused solely on this preseason game on Saturday, then the preseason game the week thereafter against Kansas City. We get through those 2 relatively healthy, then we just got to maintain that throughout the rest of the preseason, because we're not playing our guys in the 3rd preseason game. Just got to stay healthy in practice. And then you're getting to the starting blocks with all your stuff, which is what the goal is ultimately when you show up for camp. And then we can start talking about the regular season. And before you know it, it'll be week 3, and it'll be the Eagles coming to town. And I look forward to us disposing of them and dispatching of them in week 3, but got to get there first. Thank you for the super chat. Big Money Sonny. Chalupa, stand up. You are officially in the building as the newest member of the MOBB. Chalupa, thank you so much for your patronage. Mom, you know what to do. Show Chalupa some love. Show him how we do it here in the MOBB. Chalupa, glad you are on board. You're just in time, as I mentioned. Just gave away some tickets. Matter of fact, gave away 4 tickets. Shout out to my guy, Hip Hop Viral Hip Hop News, once again, for the blessing that I was able to bestow upon another member of the family. Again, if you are a Mob Squad member and you want to be entered into these giveaways, got to follow the directions. I was able to give away some tickets. So now you're going to be allowed to be entered into these drawings if you so choose and desire to be. So looking forward to that and all the other perks that come with being a member of the MOBB, including being included in this very tight-knit family here. And so, Mob, you know what it is. Chalupa, welcome to the squad. All right. Let's see. Malachi Malik, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, what's up, bro? What's up, Malachi? Says Brian Robinson practicing with the ones while AG is on the sideline doing ball security drills. News are just interesting. He's fumbled quite a bit in camp. Antonio Gibson has fumbled by my account, at least 3 times in camp, and it's been 3 times in the last week or so of practice. So he's had some issues securing the football. And so I told you, a lot of people want to make a big deal out of Antonio Gibson, and Brian Robinson being drafted and what that means for Antonio Gibson. It's not about Gibson's ability. That's not why they drafted Brian Robinson. They drafted Brian Robinson for 2 reasons. And I've already stated those 2 reasons tonight and in the past. And that's the number 1 reason is the ball security. Ron was pissed last year when Antonio Gibson put it on the ground. He led all running backs in the NFL in fumbles last season with 5. Okay. I think he actually fumbled 6 times, but lost 5 of them. Like, that was a big problem for us last season. Antonio Gibson's inability to secure the football. And Ron wanted to bench him and sit him down. We just didn't have anybody else to put in the game. So that's no longer an issue. Now they got a guy that they trust that can carry the load. If Antonio Gibson cannot secure the football, they have no problems putting Brian Robinson in there. And the other reason is for short yardage purposes. He's one of the most physical backs coming into the league from the collegiate ranks. A lot of yards after contact. So we lost Peyton Barber last year. They're replacing that production with Brian Robinson as well. So it may not be a massive deal, but it could be if Antonio Gibson cannot secure the football. Let's see. Spencer Kalis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Spencer Kalis writes, Louie, just checking if you have figured out why I always start with that. I don't know. I've heard it before. I think it's a song, but I can't tell you specifically. Anyways, cannot wait for the season. NFC East champs or bust. I won't go as far as NFC East champs or bust. Playoffs for me or bust. And I've said we need to be a double-digit, winning team this year. And if 10 isn't good enough to get you in, that's a sad state of affairs, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles. I think 10 will be enough to get you in. But if you don't want to leave it to chance, go win 11. Whether that's good enough to win the division or not, all you can do is put your best foot forward. But if you win 11 games, you're going to the playoffs. Especially in the NFC, where I don't think the conference is as tough. 10 should get you in. 11 definitely gets you a ticket to the dance. So I think in winning the division is something that I hope they're striving to attain. But at the end of the day, I just want into the postseason. I just want a ticket to the dance. Whether it's a road game, a home game, really doesn't make me one bit of difference. I just want in. Prefer it to be a home game and prefer to be able to say that we're NFC East champs. But at the end of the day, just getting to the playoffs is the goal when the season starts. Obviously, winning your division is another goal, but you just want to make the playoffs. So thank you for that super chat, Spencer Kalis. Let's see. Big Money Sonny. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Big Money Sonny writes, 2 words, Malik Willis. He had some moments last night. He definitely had some moments, man. I thought he looked solid, against the Ravens. Now, again, they didn't play their starters offensively or defensively, but I thought Malik Willis had his moments, man. I'm not mad at what I saw from the young fella. Hopefully he continues to build upon what he did. Did have a touchdown toss last night. So I'm looking forward to seeing him and all of the young quarterbacks, Kenny Pickett in Pittsburgh and what the young fella and we'll see Matt Corral up close and personal. This is the second year in a row in our first preseason game. You're going to get a look at a highly touted rookie quarterback. Now, it's not as highly touted as last year. Mac Jones was the first-round pick last year, and we saw him in preseason game number 1. Matt Corral is not a first-round pick, but he's a guy that the Panthers think could be the future of their quarterback position down the road. Same could be said for the Atlanta Falcons quarterback that they drafted, Desmond Ridder. So I'll be interested to see what because nobody's really feeling all of these quarterbacks for real. So I'm interested to see if these young fellas can, start to build confidence and put themselves in a position that if an opportunity should arise, they can get in the game and maybe take advantage of it. It was a good start for Malik Willis. That is for sure. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, and these nuts, salty snacks. I can't with you. I cannot at all. Anyway, I digress. Johnny Boy 26, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Johnny Boy 26 writes, Sam should play the whole second half of the game. And honestly speaking, that may be the case. Being that they got rid of Cole Kelly just about a week ago when they decided to sign all of those players, the safety, the tight end, the linebacker. Cole Kelly was among the guys released to create the space for those new guys that they were bringing in. I surmise that we will see Sam Howell, if not for the entire second half, for much of it. You could see a situation, depending on how the first half goes. If Washington's first drive goes 8 minutes, the Panthers' first drive goes 6 minutes, that's the whole first quarter. And then Washington's second drive starts in the second quarter, and Heineke has a 4-minute drive that ends in a field goal. And then the Panthers have their second, group, which is still their first team out there, and they go 10 minutes and eat up the entire, second quarter. Then Heineke might get back out there for the third quarter. I mean, and again, that's unlikely to happen, but there could be a situation in which Heineke is back out there to start the third quarter before they turn over the reins to Sam Howell. It just depends on how much Heineke plays in the first half. If Heineke only has 1 or 2 possessions in the first half, I could see them keeping him into the third quarter. If Heineke has 3 or 4 possessions in the first half, And then you might see Sam Howell have the entire second half all to himself. Let's see. Got another super chat. This one is from Mr. Ron B. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. OG triple OG writes, it's going to be interesting to see who plays middle linebacker with Holcomb playing little, if at all. Oh, Holcomb will play. We know who the backup middle linebacker is. Okay, that's David Mayo. So once Holcomb comes out of the game, you're going to get a nice, healthy glob of David Mayo. So go ahead, open up that slice of bread, get that glob of mayo, spread it on nice and thick, because we're going to see a ton of 51 on your television screen tomorrow night or tomorrow afternoon into the evening, potentially, with David Mayo playing a lot of the middle linebacker position. And then you got all of these backup young guys that they have on the roster that we will see in that capacity as well. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Big Money Sonny writes, pads cracking, defense flying, and the offense going up top off rip. That's what I'm expecting to see. Nothing less. Let's get it, Lou. You're asking for an awful lot in a preseason game. I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't take a single shot in this game, not wanting to put anything on tape, keeping it very vanilla, working underneath in the intermediate game, getting the playmakers involved early and often by getting them the football in their hands. Again, I watched that game last night, and I watched the Hall of Fame game. How many screens did the Raiders throw to their running backs? Like 18 of them. No one's trying to show anything in these preseason games. You don't want to give anybody any real tangible tape to go study. So taking shots may not even happen. It'd be nice if they took a shot, but I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't take any, to be honest with you. It should be fun, though. I'm anxious to see what they do in this game for sure. Got another super chat. This one is from Big Money Sonny. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Big Money Sonny writes, happy belated birthday to Hip Hop. Salutes. Likewise, man. Happy born day. And again, shout out to him for blessing the program and the mob with some additional tickets. Always a blessing. And again, thank you so much and happy born day for sure. Let's see. Chauncey Davis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Chauncey Davis, OG triple OG, writes, number 8, Cam Sims, 4th year, Wentz likes tall targets. I don't even know if he's going to play with Carson Wentz a ton in this game, to be honest with you. It'd be interesting to see how many reps Wentz and the first team offense gets and how many of those Cam Sims is in on. I would imagine he would see the field with Carson Wentz for at least 2 or 3 snaps, but we know he does like taller targets, so that is a thing. But I don't know if that would register. That's number 8 on your list. I don't know if that registers for me. It is his 4th. Is this his 4th season or is this his 5th season? Because I don't think he played the first 2 years, and I think 2020 was his 3rd year. 2021 was his, because we signed him to a restricted free agent deal. So I think this is his 5th year in the league. I think, if I'm not mistaken. You might want to fact check me on that, but either way. We'll see. We'll see if Cam Sims. I think he'll be in with Taylor Heineke, if nothing else. He'll get plenty of reps with Heineke in the second unit for sure. Let's see. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Big Money Sonny writes, got to give it up to E in the chat. Eagles fans be like that ex-stalking Wentz. Of course, I told you what it was. I gave you guys my depiction of what the relationship between Eagles fans and Carson Wentz is right now. They're like a scorned ex. They don't want to see him be happy with somebody else because they feel like they've put in the work. Like they should have been reaping the benefits of him growing up and maturing. And they don't want to see somebody else getting what they felt like they should have been getting. So it is like an ex. You claim, I don't care about what they over there doing. And, I don't care how she moving or how he moving, but you still steady checking their socials, right? You still steady checking their timeline and seeing what they up to and looking at all their pictures and like, man, he ugly anyway. Or man, she ugly anyway. He garbage anyway. Yeah, that's what they doing. Steady checking for Carson Wentz to see what he's up to because they want to make sure that he doesn't go out here and make somebody else happy, right? I love it. And that's part of this whole entire situation is that the Eagles fans are salty as hell. And it would be really great to pour salt in the wounds that they have and the scars left from Carson Wentz. It'd be nice to open those puppies back up. Having to see Wentz opens that thing up and then just have him play well would pour salt in that wound. And boy, would it sting like hell. And that's what I'm hoping. That's all we can hope for as a fan base, honestly. Colton Wheeler, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Colton Wheeler, writes, Lou, been too long since I've shown support, so I had to make sure to get it done. It's been a while, man. It's been too long, as you mentioned, Colton, but it's so good to hear from you. He says, what are the odds that if Robinson turns out to be a productive back, that we end up parting ways with Gibson or just change his role? It's more likely that we part ways with him, not necessarily releasing him or anything crazy like that. They'd be just not re-signing him. Remember, this is Gibson's third year. Next year will be a contract season for him. If he has issues holding on to the rock or, Robinson burst onto the scene and they look at him and say, he's clearly our best running back, then they may move on from him after next season altogether and allow him to, get paid elsewhere. Teams really don't like paying running backs big money. So if Gibby doesn't show them that he deserves to be broken off, they'll just go in the direction of Brian Robinson and move on from him. So this is a big year for Antonio Gibson. Huge year, So we'll see what happens. Robinson has to be more than just a productive back to unseat Antonio Gibson, unless Gibby is putting the ball on the floor, as a wise man once said, putting the church's money on the floor. Unless Gibby's doing that, he's going to have to be more than just productive to unseat Antonio Gibson. But if Gibson's fumbling the football away, it won't take much to get him on the bench and potentially keep him there. Colton Wheeler, thank you for becoming a member of the MOBB. You know what it is. Stand up. You are officially the newest member of the MOBB, Colton Wheeler. So glad to have you on board. Thank you so much for becoming a member of the Mob Squad. Squad, you know what to do. Show our guy, Colton Wheeler, much love. Colton, thank you for becoming a member of the squad. Ryan A., thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Ryan A. writes, glad we didn't pay Kenny Golladay. Looked awful yesterday. I never wanted Kenny Golladay. I thought he was better than what I've seen from him these last, couple of years in New York. Well, this is his second year. He was absolutely god awful for the Giants last year. And, some people chalked it up to not a great quarterback situation, but that's no excuse in this league. Now, the offensive line wasn't great. Joe Judge is a joke as a head coach. Or was a joke as a head coach for the Giants, but there's no excuse. Terry McLaurin's been dealing with dysfunction since he got here, and he's posted every single year, posts every single game. And to see what Kenny Golladay has done, wow, I'm actually speechless. I'm not gonna use a preseason game to determine whether he's gonna be good for the Giants this season or not. But he hasn't been strong for them in camp, and that first preseason game wasn't much better than what they've seen from him in camp to this point. So not looking good for him at this current juncture. I'm glad we didn't fool around with him either, but I never thought that he was a realistic possibility for Washington anyhow. Mr. Ron B., thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Mr. Ron B., who writes, we already know what Mayo is. So what? Give reps to the young guys and see what they're made of. I mean, he still needs reps, does David Mayo. Even though you know what he is, he still needs reps. But to your point, we know he's making a football team. We know what we're getting from him as a defender. Why not give some of the younger guys looking to make an impression, maybe to even carve out a niche for themselves on the roster? Why not give them more opportunities to prove what they can or can't do? I totally agree with that. And they'll get their opportunities, trust me. But they're going to definitely take a look at David Mayo as well But yeah, you're going to see a lot of these young backers getting an opportunity, like Trey Walker and Milo Eifler and some of those guys that are vying for a roster spot. They're definitely going to get their chances as well. Texas Eagle, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Texas Eagle. Right, serious question. Y'all clowned Wentz for years, so now he's good. So this is the thing about Wentz. I don't know who is y'all who clowned Wentz. I clowned Wentz for a season. Okay, Carson Wentz kicked our ass for 4 years before stinking it up in 2020. Other than 2020, I think we had beaten Carson Wentz in his rookie season. That was it. Wentz had beaten us twice in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. I think before he got injured, he had played Washington twice already, if not definitely once. He beat us twice in 2018. And then he beat us twice in 19, because going into the 2020 season, I recall very vividly saying the Eagles have beat us 6 times in a row. I'm sick of this shit, and I guaranteed victory when Ron got here. So I don't know who this y'all you speak of is. It wasn't me. I'm like Shaggy. It wasn't me. Okay, that was talking shit about Wentz. I clowned Wentz in 2020 when he was struggling, but Wentz was always a guy that I respected here in Washington because he kicked our ass and he drugged the Eagles' sorry sack of a roster to the playoffs multiple years. 17 wasn't a sorry roster, okay? The really good roster, actually. 18, I know he wasn't as good. I still think he played better than the record and some of the things may indicate. 19, we all saw what the man did, and got to give him credit for that. I always had an appreciation for Carson Wentz because he always made magic against us. And I know the running joke is everybody does that to Washington. What the hell ever. Not everybody was kicking our ass like Carson Wentz was. So again, the y'all that you speak of, I don't know who you're talking to. You clearly aren't talking to me, and you haven't been watching my channel because I haven't been killing Carson Wentz. I've always respected Wentz, and I still don't understand the disdain for Carson Wentz. Even when he left Philadelphia, I was like, well, damn, there must have been some shit going on behind the scenes that forced them to feel like they needed to move on from him. Maybe he doesn't have it up here. He goes to Indy, and they move on from him, and then there's this stigma now. Oh, Carson Wentz isn't mentally tough. Carson Wentz is a problem in the locker room. Carson Wentz is this, he's that. But I'm not sure that this is all a Carson Wentz problem. The Eagles had their look. Wentz will tell anyone that will listen, he wasn't a Boy Scout in Philadelphia. He didn't take and accept a ton of responsibility for things that went wrong in Philadelphia. He had a lot of maturing to do, especially when he got there and he played well in his rookie season. He helps lead them to the playoffs and to the Super Bowl. It obviously, gets injured late in the season and Foles takes over from there. But it was Wentzylvania early in his career, right? Like, this is what it was for him. They give him the contract extension after 2018 because of what he had shown them. And so there was a lot of respect from me. I can't speak for anyone else. So, yeah, I can't co-sign that comment. Anyway, I digress. That's all of the super chats. So we are going to get out of here. But at the end of the day, I think Carson Wentz has a lot to prove to people. And there's a lot being said about him. And the thing that is funny is that a lot of Eagles fans, but it's not just Eagles fans. Like, all of this hate that I'm hearing from Carson Wentz, it's not just Eagles fans. It's a lot of people out there that, for whatever reason, don't have a great affinity for Carson Wentz. And I can't figure out why. Like, I'm like, he didn't play for 27 teams around the league. He only played for 2. This is his 3rd stop. I don't understand where all the hate is coming from. But that said, you can say what you want about Carson Wentz, about, his past with Philadelphia. Does he have an ego, this, that, or the third? Is he a me guy? Is he selfish? Does he not want to take blame? People can change. That's the thing that is so frustrating. It'd be one thing if you told me this guy has a pop gun arm. Okay, that's not going to change. Taylor Heineke isn't going to show up and start spinning it, this year. That can't change. It is what it is. Okay, if a running back runs a 4.6, he's not going to show up, the next offseason and run a 4.4. I don't care how much weight he cuts. He's not a fast guy. That's not going to change. These are physical incapabilities, right? Mentally, you can change. You can grow. So this notion that Carson Wentz is this, he's that, and he can't be anything else, I find that hard to stomach and digest, especially when he's saying all the right things. Now, again, what he says and what he does, two different things. So he's going to have to talk the talk and then walk the walk. But the man is admitting, if you are a guy that has trouble accepting blame, pointing the finger at yourself, or rather pointing the thumb instead of the finger, if you have a problem with that, you're not going to be self-deprecating. You're not going to have the ability to be self-reflective. Wentz has done that all off season. He's talked about needing to get better. He's talked about having to play better and having to, do the things necessary to get better and on the same page with his receivers. He's like, there's nobody harder on me than me. So all of the naysayers, all the detractors, all of the noise outside of the building, I don't hear any of it, but it can't be any worse than how I treat myself when I don't have a good practice, when I don't have a couple of balls in a row that I miss. I'm hard on myself, and I expect more from me than anybody else can expect from me. So he said all the right things. Now it's about going out and doing it. But anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Looking forward to tomorrow's preseason game, 1 p.m. at home against the Carolina Panthers. Should be a ton of fun. You know where to find me at Game's End. I will be live for the Command Post game show. And that's a pretty easy transition, right? So look forward to that tomorrow. Whether we win or lose is, to me, of little or no consequence. The biggest key is staying healthy. I didn't go through the things I want, like staying healthy. That goes without saying. These things that I'm looking for, I've given you those. But obviously, the thing that supersedes everything is health. You would just want to come out of this game and all the games that are there to follow healthy. So with that said, I am a Washington fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington spirit will never die. Washington spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, post up and take command. You guys have a great evening. Enjoy your weekend. We will reconvene tomorrow afternoon after the preseason contest. Have a good one.
LouieTeeNetwork.